72323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers. LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets, working towards the weekend. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And we're going to talk to a lot of people over the next 2 hours. Andrew Allegretti is the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. He'll be with us in 15 minutes to talk about the Doors as they head to Baton Rouge. Stephen Thompson covers Pittsburgh basketball for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Really, really big challenge for LSU tomorrow up at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. It'll be a 1:30 tip, so maybe not time to get to it immediately on tomorrow's show. We'll chat with Stephen Thompson coming up in 30 minutes. I'm really interested to see how that game plays out. There's a new NFL mock draft out that we've got to get to with the Saints and Will Campbell. I'm going to talk about LSU's woes in the red zone. I have some quotes from some of LSU's players, and we will certainly go into some statistics on that as well, as it's been a tough go for LSU trying to get points. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, with us at 2:15, and Luke Johnson back at 2:30 talking Saints with us here on the Hunt Palmer Show. We've got great news here at Guarantee Media. We're having a big Thanksgiving lunch. The entire staff brought dishes and a big Thanksgiving lunch. And what time did they serve it, Jacob Beck?
Right now.
1 o'clock right now, which will be done in about 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah.
What food do we think will be left at that point?
Probably not much, I would guess.
Maybe some rolls here or there.
Maybe.
What casserole might somebody bring that nobody's going to eat?
Sometimes the green bean casserole
Green bean
sticks
casserole.
around.
My wife brought that to hers. I'm sure
not that there's anything wrong with it, but you know.
It has cream and mushroom soup in it. I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
There's probably something with like oysters that a lot of people are going to be
maybe
grossed
oyster
out by.
dressing.
But we're not going to get it even anyway.
No,
so it
we're
doesn't
not.
really matter. So I guess we should just put our nose to the grindstone and get to work. And the only way we can do that is with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, I'm going to do this segment. I wrestled this morning whether or not I was going to do this segment, and then I said, you know what, you need to do the segment. So we're going to do the segment. Can the Saints make the playoffs? We pronounced this team very much dead 2 weeks ago. They fired their head coach. They traded their best defensive asset. The whole team's hurt. Olave may not play again. Shaheed's on the IL for the rest of the way. That's a baseball term. IR the rest of the way. It looked terrible, and then they won 2 games. And now they're in a bye week, and we don't have an opponent to preview. So the question is, can they do enough to get there? You know the situation that they're currently standing in, and it's a bad division. I will grant you that it is a bad division. Right now, the Saints sit at 4 wins and 7 losses. Just above them by half a game, Tampa Bay has 4 wins and 6 losses. Atlanta's atop the division at 6 wins and 5 losses. So the Saints out of first place, 2 games. Okay? Now, I want to talk about these 3 teams, big picture, and then we'll get into what the actual numbers in the schedule say. But Atlanta looks pretty good, but the Saints did beat them once. They split that tiebreaker, the first one. Tampa is quote-unquote in free fall. Yes, they have lost 4 games in a row. Are you aware of who those games are against that Tampa has dropped? Because I will tell you, it's not exactly the easiest stretch of games that I've seen anybody play. They played Baltimore and lost by 10 points. Baltimore's one of the best teams in the league. They played Atlanta and lost by 5. Falcons, solid team. Then they went to Kansas City and lost by 6 in a game that they could have very much won. And then they played San Francisco and lost by 3. They're not getting blown out. They're competitive. They're playing playoff teams. But yeah, they've lost 4 games in a row, and that's why they're only a half game up on New Orleans. Now, when I look at Atlanta specifically and how the Saints match up with Atlanta, because we have completed that series of games, they split them. So now I go to the tiebreakers, and the second tiebreaker is divisional record. And the Saints only have one divisional game left. It's against Tampa. For the sake of them making the playoffs, we have to assume they're going to win that. If they lose it, they're probably not going to make the playoffs. But if they win it, they will be a perfect 3-3, a split right down the middle. They will split with all three teams. Atlanta has already swept Tampa and still has Carolina to play. They win that game against Carolina in Week 18, they will have a better divisional record than the Saints. Therefore, it's reasonable to suggest the Saints need to beat Atlanta outright because you're not going to win a tiebreaker unless Atlanta loses to the Panthers. Sure, it could happen, but I'm not really working in that type of mindset. Like, if I was going to do that, I would say, well, what if Atlanta loses out and the Saints win out? Well, then they're in. I'm trying to be realistic about what the possibilities are here. And I'm assuming, based on reason, that Atlanta's going to beat the Panthers. And if they do, the Saints have to beat Atlanta outright. So, Beck, work with me here as I go through Atlanta's schedule to decide where they're going to be. Atlanta is on a bye with the Saints this week, so we don't have to worry about that. Next up, they host the Chargers. That's a losable game.
It's very losable.
Chargers are good.
Playing well.
Then they're at the Vikings. Now, the Vikings haven't been as good, but it's a road game against a team that could make the playoffs. They could lose that game as well.
Vikings are 8-2. They're good.
Then they're at the Raiders. It's a road game, but the Raiders are real bad.
They're bad.
I think if we're going to be realistic, let's put that one in the win column for now. They play the Giants in Atlanta. The Giants are bad.
Yep.
That's probably a win.
Yep.
They're at Washington. Very losable. Commanders are very good. Then, as we mentioned, they host the Panthers. Is it reasonable to suggest that the Falcons will win at least 3 games moving forward?
I would say it is very reasonable.
That puts them at 9.
Yeah, that's tough.
The Saints, to beat them outright, have to get to 10. That means you have to win out.
Yeah.
That's where it gets hairy. It doesn't get hairy with me suggesting that the Falcons could lose some of these games, or the Saints could win some of these games, or that the Saints could tie the Falcons because they're only 2 games back. It gets hairy when I've got to pass Atlanta, and I realize that the odds of them losing some of these games just isn't very good. I mean, the Giants have demoted their starting quarterback to the practice squad, basically. He's inactive. I mean, that's just a mess of a situation up there. And then you look at Carolina in Week 18. I mean, what kind of a motivation do you have with that team? I mean, you had last year the Saints needed the Panthers to win at the end of the season. That's not going to happen. And then at the Raiders, they'll probably play hard. They're just not any good. So that's where you kind of lose steam with can the Saints make the playoffs? No.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know what are the percentage. If you look at the ESPN, probably FPI, or if you can look at the percentages of the chances of all these games that the Saints have left to win all of them, it's very, very slim. I mean,
the issue is that even if I can get past Atlanta,
and
say, okay, well, what if Atlanta does drop that game to the Raiders, and what
maybe
if Kirk
lose.
Cousins gets hurt and they lose to the Giants? Maybe that's very reasonable. You still have to deal with Tampa. And while it's convenient to go, well, Tampa's in free fall. They've lost 4 in a row. I just laid that out what their schedule is. And then you look at what they've got coming up. They're playing this week at the Giants. I just told you how bad the Giants are. Then they play at the Panthers. It stands to reason that Tampa very well may have 6 wins after the next 2 weeks. The Saints are sitting at 4.
Well, then they play the Raiders the next week too, so they could easily reel off 3.
And then you still got a game with Dallas, who doesn't have a quarterback,
and the Panthers.
And then you still got the Panthers plus the Saints at home in Tampa. So it's fun to dream and think the vibes are way better. And Rizzy's got a lot of energy, and you're gotten the offensive line healthy, and you're running the ball a little bit better, and you've lost that malaise that was Dennis Allen. And there is reason for optimism. But I'm not going to sit here and just blow smoke. The Saints aren't going to make the playoffs. So I really believe if you're a Saints fan, and I have not said this for the last 2 weeks, but now the bye gives you a chance to reset. If you're a Saints fan, man, you can pull like heck for them in the Dome against the Rams. If they lose, it's all right. It's okay. If your goal as a Saints fan is to clean house here and to move up as high as you can in the draft so that you're not picking 11th like the draft order says right now, and maybe you're picking 4th, and maybe, just maybe, the organization takes a chance on a starting quarterback, a quarterback of the future, because you're that high up in the draft, and either one is there where you pick, or it's easier to move up a spot. I think it's time to really have that conversation, because mathematically and statistically, this doesn't look good schedule for schedule, and your salary cap situation and roster age is such that it's time to start really having that conversation. When Dennis Allen got fired, we sat here for like 3 days and went, this is where the Saints are, time to move forward, and we applauded the Lattimore move. And then we said, you know what? It's fine if you just go beat the Falcons. Screw them. You've lost 7 in a row. It's nice to knock them down a pedestal. It's at home. Give them one shot with this interim coach who's got a lot of juice. Who cares if he stopped up the toilet? He's a cool guy. Let's go win the game. And you won the game. And then you played another bad team last week, and they came in, and you won the game. Good. Vibes are a lot better. Players are happier. Coffee tastes better at work. Water cooler's better. Maybe a po' boy tastes a little bit better. But the reality of the situation is the Saints aren't going anywhere in the next 6 weeks. The Saints need to make changes. And those changes are easily facilitated with a couple of losses down the stretch here and some wins by the teams that you hate the most. And that conversation sucks, but my job is to sit here, take information, and give my honest opinion about it. That's my honest opinion. It is possible that the Saints make the playoffs. It is possible the Saints beat the Rams and go to New York and win and beat Jaden Daniels in the Dome. It's possible they can go to Green Bay and win a game. It's possible the Raiders coming in are bad that we've talked about and they can win that game, and maybe Tampa is in free fall and you can go to Tampa and win. The likelihood of them rattling off 6 in a row or 5 out of 6 is not good at all. And the likelihood that these two teams still have to play the Raiders and the Giants and the Panthers and the Cowboys, and it's just, it doesn't look good. So that's my honest opinion as we move forward. Next week, we'll sit down here and we will earnestly discuss the Saints game against the Rams and what that matchup looks like and what the Saints' advantages are and what the Saints' disadvantages are and what it may look like on Sunday. And then we'll come back on Monday and we'll analyze it. And hopefully Fuaga keeps playing great at left tackle and Penning keeps playing great at right tackle. And hopefully you've got some young defenders like Brzee that show up and make some big-time plays. Your corners develop and you show some real pieces of what could be the next iteration of good Saints teams. But I sat down with no preconceived notion and just started writing out the schedule and writing out all the stats and looking at this game for game and week for week. And I looked up the tiebreakers. And the fact of the matter is that this thing's just about cooked. That's a bucket of cold water. Apologies. It's a beautiful day outside in South Louisiana, so hopefully that helps. But that's just where I am with these New Orleans Saints right now. And that's our Genesis opening drive for today. Let's transition over to LSU and Vanderbilt. Andrew Allegretta is the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. He's probably had a pretty good year over this fall with Diego Pavia and company. We'll talk about this Vanderbilt team that's coming in for a Saturday night in Death Valley coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. It's holiday time. You're starting to think, what could I possibly do for a gift? How about a brand new bathroom? How about a brand new shower? Man, would that be awesome. You don't have to move to make that happen. Especially if you got one of those big 90s jacuzzi tubs with a million buttons and stuff and you never use it. Doesn't even work. Take it out. That's a lot of space. How good would a glass walk-in shower right there look? Changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom. It's clean, it's new, add value to your home. And you can make that happen with David Duvall and the team at One Bath and Closets. You're thinking, paying for that right now? Well, financing options are available. 18 months, 0% if you qualify. Start the process with a free consultation with David Duvall and his team. They're at OneBathAndClosets.com. One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
Let's talk turkey. Bayou Ford can get you in a new 2024 Ford F-150 with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off America's favorite F-150 truck. All new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
LSU and Vanderbilt will be a Saturday night in Death Valley. This is one you probably looked at months ago and thought, well, that's one we may give the tickets to the in-laws, go hunting. Not so much. These Commodores have been game all season long. Imagine it's been a fun ride for our next guest, Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Give us some time on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Andrew, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing well. So what it sounds like is the deer stands will be a little bit vacant this Saturday than they would have otherwise been. Is that what you're telling me?
I can't promise that based on the last 3 games that LSU has played. Okay. However, they certainly have more LSU fans' attentions this week than we may have thought in terms of the result of the game. But speak to the point that I just kind of brought up. How much fun has it been in Nashville this year?
Oh, of course. It's been a blast. I think if you're checking off bucket list items, at least for us, like first win versus Alabama since 1984, first ever win at Jordan Hare, which is a little bit surprising even for us. Of course, going back to a bowl game for the first time since 2018. You've got someone that's been so captivating to watch like Diego Pavia. If you're marching goalpost down Broadway to the Cumberland, if Nate Bargatze is on SNL talking about your win versus Alabama, it's been a pretty special ride. I don't think anybody has taken it for granted.
Was there any inclination in August that this type of a year was coming?
That's a good question. I think it's a fair question. I think the thing that I've kind of said throughout the course of the past couple of months is I went into the season not necessarily with high expectations or low expectations. I went into the season with curiosity because so much was new. Yes, Clark Lee is back for his 4th season, but the offensive coordinator is new. Clark is the defensive coordinator, which is new. You bring in a new quarterback. You bring in Jerry Kill. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. So much was new that it was hard for me to have an inkling or an expectation of something and rather just approach every single game with curiosity. I think the Virginia Tech game, the first one of the season, kind of put us on notice like, okay, perhaps there's something here.
Let's talk about Diego Pavia. You mentioned him there. What has it been like to watch him and call him over the last 3 months?
It's been some of the most fun that I've had in a broadcasting booth in my career. One of the more captivating players, one of the more like lightning rod players on the field that you could possibly have. The energy, the effort, like that's one of the things that, at least from a Vanderbilt fan base standpoint, what we've always wanted is someone that's going to max out their effort and their energy, right? Like, we're going to sit in a position, we're going to acknowledge the fact that, the top 1, 2, 3, 4 recruiting classes in the country are going to go to LSU, Alabama, Georgia. But what the fans have always wanted is a team that maxes out its effort on Saturday and gets the most out of its talent. And there's no one that really embodies that more than Diego Pavia.
What's amazed me is I see the highlights. I can't claim to have watched every snap like you have, but I see the highlights and I see plays where he's looking like playing backyard football and using his legs, kind of running around and freelancing. And then I look at the interception numbers, and it's almost none. There's 3 on the year. Can you speak to his creativity, his playmaking ability, but the way that he also takes care of the ball?
Well, that's a massive priority. So Diego's thrown the least amount of interceptions in the Southeastern Conference, and I say that, and of course something will happen on Saturday for sure. He has gotten so much better. In fact, I've kind of talked the past couple of days with Tim Beck about this, the offensive coordinator for Vanderbilt. He would tell you when he first got a hold of Diego Pavia, his accuracy wasn't very good. But one of the things that he's done is number one, he's an outrageously hard worker. So getting recruited to New Mexico State back in 20, I guess it would have been 21, his accuracy has gone way up. He still doesn't have the world's greatest arm in terms of strength, but he knows what he can do with it. And the other piece that I've talked with football coaches about sometimes is the guys that often succeed are the ones that can diagnose a picture very, very quickly and make rapid decisions and have a feel for the game. It's not just, can you sit down and take this outrageous test and how smart are you, blah, 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 blah. It's how well can you diagnose a picture that you see on the field. And Diego is really good at that. He's got just a feel out there for the quarterback position. He'll scramble, but he does so intelligently. Like, he's got a sense that he needs to look over his shoulder to see if he's getting tracked from behind. Or there's times where he'll intentionally, there was a play versus Kentucky where he intentionally took a sack late in the ball game rather than throw the ball away so the clock would keep moving. that sort of stuff is where Diego separates himself as a quarterback.
We've heard the term triple option used a bunch this week from LSU's players and coaches, but what is Vanderbilt trying to accomplish on offense?
Keep the football. Tim Beck, I don't even know, has a true name for what his offense is and what the Jerry Kill, Tim Beck offense is. I think at New Mexico State, they just kind of called it multiple. It definitely has lots of option principles in there. But he's told me, too, that they've got plays out there that look like a Mike Leach air raid type offense, too. So it doesn't just sit there and operate like a Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech triple option type thing from a handful of years ago. They're trying to hold on to the football. It's designed to be 3rd down and 1, and we convert, right? It's designed to get into the red zone and to have a 3rd down and goal to go from the 1 and we score. And that's reflective in, a lot of our numbers, not all of them. But I still think we're top 5 in the conference in 3rd down conversions. I know we're 2nd in the conference in red zone scoring. I think we're still 1st or 2nd in time of possession. It is designed to be that. It is designed to be ball control and to do it, whether it's through the option looks that you can have. But I'll tell you this, a lot of teams in the past handful of weeks have taken that away from us. So we have struggled more. Our rushing attack has not been quite what you would like it to be. Our 3rd downs have been 3rd down and 8 instead of 3rd down and 2. And that's created problems versus South Carolina or Auburn or Texas. So, teams have found a way as of late to kind of constrict some of the multiple ways that Diego Pavia has been able to beat teams in the first half of the season.
Who's a playmaker or two outside of Pavia that Tiger fans should be acquainted with before Saturday night?
Oh, Eli Stowers is for sure the next guy out there. He's an NFL type prospect. He's a guy that came out of Texas as a starting quarterback. In fact, I think when you guys play Oklahoma next week, he got hurt. Eli Stowers did in a state championship game down in Texas, and the guy that replaced him is now Oklahoma's starting quarterback, Jackson Arnold. But what happened is it did not pan out for Stowers at Texas A&M as a quarterback. He went to New Mexico State, eventually became a tight end. And Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers are basically thick as thieves. Like, they went to the UFC fight at Madison Square Garden last weekend on the bye weekend for Vandy. So he's a very skilled tight end. He's up for the Mackey Award, just like Taylor is for you guys. So he's the number one target for Diego Pavia. If Vandy struggles to get him the football, they've got other options, but the offense will be, again, in 3rd down and 7 instead of 3rd down and 2.
Let's talk defense. That's Clark Lee's side of the football. My read from far away is that it's probably a defense that's better than the sum of its parts. What's your read on the strength of this Vanderbilt defense?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely better than the sum of its parts. Now, having said that, I do think the talent for this defense has been elevated. It's one of the conversations that happened around the transfer portal, and it's about the fact that all of a sudden some of the depth players that would have been at LSU or Alabama are now at Vanderbilt or elsewhere, helping those programs as first stringers. Randon Fontenette is a dynamic hybrid, safety linebacker, that type of position. He's somebody that can blow up a game if he needs to. C.J. Taylor's a very gifted safety. They've shown just enough with that defensive line. I think the linebackers are pretty good. Now, the depth does get thin. So if you guys run the football, we're gonna struggle toward the fourth quarter. That's what happened versus South Carolina. They could not get off the field. The whole stat of this game is probably going to be 3rd downs defensively for Vanderbilt and offensively for LSU. I recognize that it was kind of fits and starts for you guys versus Florida, but ultimately you converted like 55, 60% of your 3rd downs versus the Gators. And Vanderbilt is second to last in the conference, amazingly, in 3rd down opponent conversion. If that holds, Vanderbilt's going to be in a pinch in the fourth quarter. If it flips, then it's going to be a competitive game in the fourth quarter.
And he's been competitive just about every week. If it is competitive in the fourth quarter and it does come down to a kick, say 44 yards or so, how would the Doors feel about their ability to make that one?
I think we're going to feel good if it's 54.
Okay.
I think we might even feel good if it's 60. Brock Taylor's our starting kicker. He is in his first season, and he already has set the program record for most career 50-yard field goals. I think it's 5. Let's see. Yes, 5 50-yard field goals this season, and that is already a Vanderbilt career record. So if we need a field goal late, we feel okay. Now, he's missed some early, but he definitely settled in.
That's interesting. I did not realize that. I hadn't gotten that far into the stat sheet yet this late in the week, so appreciate you shedding some light on that. Y'all travel safe down here to Baton Rouge and have a great call. Thanks, Andrew.
Of course. Happy to talk.
He's Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Again, I've said this a couple times this week. I'm not as impressed with Vanderbilt's ability to beat Alabama as I am as impressed with Vanderbilt's ability to beat Alabama and play Texas to a one-score game and go up there and take it to Kentucky and to beat Virginia Tech and to go to Auburn and win. And they're just solid every week. And this is something I've probably written more at LouisianaSports.net than I've said on the air this week. Sometimes that kind of gets muddled, what I've done over there and what I've done over here. But it's a Vanderbilt team statistically that doesn't look good at all in terms of total offense, total defense, rushing, most of the statistics are not good. But as he mentioned at the top of that interview, they're great at time of possession, they're great on 3rd down, they're great in the red zone, and that's how they keep things close. They keep the ball, they get into 3rd and 1 or 2, they keep the ball a little bit longer, they've matriculated down the field, now they get into the red zone, they score points in the red zone. Pavia's only thrown 3 interceptions. It's not a high-flying offense, it's not a stingy defense, there's not a lot of highlight reel plays down the field. It's just methodical, and it's not dominant, And yeah, they got beat by Georgia State. And yeah, they got smoked by South Carolina. They couldn't hang in that game. But they've been pretty solid all year. And I can't say the same for LSU, especially over the last 3 weeks. So it should be interesting on Saturday. And we appreciate Andrew for giving us a little bit of time. If you want to check that interview out, you missed it, caught the end of it there, want to hear it on demand, you can find it on YouTube at Hunt on LSU a little bit later. All right, now let's talk some Pitt Panthers basketball. LSU and Pitt from the Greenbrier tomorrow. This Pitt team's real good, y'all. We'll talk about them coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Give yourself the peace of mind to know that your power is not going to go out. You can do that with the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. They're a certified Generac generator dealer, a premier Generac generator dealer. How about this? This is just one of the perks of working with Boudreaux's Electrical for your Generac generator. They monitor your generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They've got the technology to do it. So even if you don't know, because you're at home and you're not aware, but the generator mechanically fails, even if it's not supposed to spring into action, they'll know. They'll call you, say, hey, we noticed something's up with the generator. Let us come out and work on it. And they've got more than 10 techs out in the field at a given time that can come out and service your generator to make sure that when you need that generator, that it springs into action. It's the Christmas season coming up here. You probably got a lot of folks coming to the house. You don't want to deal with a power outage. That's the case. Get that Generac generator installed at your home or your business today. And call the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical or check out their website online at boudreauxelectrical.com. That's boudreauxelectrical.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Atmos Energy, our Smart Choice solutions help customers save energy and emissions with rebates up to $500 off high-efficiency natural gas appliances, smart thermostats, and weatherization upgrades. Together, we're fueling our energy future.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 9.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
We're Working towards the weekend. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Fighting Tigers headed up to the Greenbrier in West Virginia. They'll play a game tomorrow at 1:30 Central Time against the Pitt Panthers, and another one on Sunday, depending on the outcome of that game, as well as Wisconsin and Central Florida. But first up, Pitt Panthers on Friday afternoon. Stephen Thompson covers Pitt Panthers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and gives us a little bit of time now on the Gems Firearms Hotline. Stephen, thanks for a little bit of time. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. First of all, how's the city of Pittsburgh feeling about Paul Skeens these days? We like him down here.
Yeah, we like him quite a bit. It helps that he's got a little bit of celebrity star power on his arm in Livy Dunes, so people have certainly enjoyed having both of them around. It's a lot of fun.
I'm not pulling for the Pirates as a Cubs fan, but we do love some Paul Skeens down here, and we were thrilled that he was the Rookie of the Year earlier this week. But let's talk some basketball now. Pittsburgh and LSU, the Panthers are off to an awesome start. I watched a little bit of that game against West Virginia. What's been the most impressive of this unbeaten start for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it's the margin of victory, I guess you could say. I mean, so, you're beating up on a bunch of teams like VMI or Gardner-Webb or Murray State, but then, that West Virginia win was kind of eye-opening. West Virginia is rebuilding, new head coach, not a ton of size on that team, and Pitt, who's older, one of the older teams in Division I, one of the bigger teams in terms of length and stuff like that, was kind of able to just beat up on them a little bit, out-muscle them, out-physical them. So a lot was made about how Pitt, performed in the non-conference schedule last year, and their motto coming into the year was leave no doubt. And you can say through 5 games they have left no doubt. They have certainly looked like a team that is eager to make a statement, and that's what this weekend's going to be for them. It's a step up in weight class and a chance for them to really make a statement against what I think is a pretty good field at the Greenbrier.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good opportunity this time of the year for some teams to get a sense of what where they are. Both Pitt and LSU passed their first big test. LSU went to Kansas State, got a dominant win, and Pittsburgh, as you mentioned, whitewashed West Virginia there at home. I want to talk about these 3 guards because they jump off the stat sheet and the highlight reel when you watch. Jalen Love, Ishmael Leggett, and Damian Dunn. What's been so impressive about that trio thus far?
Yeah, Dunn has fit in really seamlessly as the transfer from Houston into the starting lineup. You didn't know if he was going to start or if he was going to be, a 6-man option. Pitt's had back-to-back ACC 6 Men of the Year, so you figured Dunn would maybe be an option in that way. But no, he was a starter in the first game, has added a really impressive scoring punch. He's a good defender. He's physical. And, just the way they play, Dunn, Lowe, and Leggett can kind of get you buckets from all over the floor. All of them kind of have a little bit of a mid-range game. They can get to the rim, and they shoot the 3 decently well with kind of varying success across the board, which helps when, the rest of this offense is really centered around taking threes and layups. Maybe Cam Coran, who's the new starting center, can get you a bucket down low, but these 3 guards are kind of the offensive engines. They have the ball in their hands most of the time. They're bringing it up the floor, and it gives them a lot of versatility, which they didn't have last year. If you don't know Pitt very well, they had Blake Hinson, who was one of the leading scorers in the ACC, shot a ton of threes, but he was the guy, and when he wasn't going, it was tough to find offense in some other ways. So they're a lot deeper this year, and it starts with those 3 guards.
Is there a go-to guy when Pitt needs a bucket, or we haven't had him in a close game where they needed a bucket, so we're not really sure?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. They haven't played in enough close games to really be tested in that way. But judging off of last year, Lowe and Leggett were there last year. I'd say those are your top 2. But I became really impressed with the way Leggett was able to get them a tough bucket when they went on a scoring drought, which there were certainly plenty of those last year. He's just so physical. He's able to drive through guards, forwards, centers, all the same, and get to the cup, get a shot on the rim at the very least. So I would say him. He's a much improved shooter from 3 as well. So I'd say Ishmael Leggett, if, it really does come down to the wire, he's the one that they're going to lean on.
Guillermo Diaz-Graham, 7-footer, who's been out there and has made a 3 in all 4 games, actually. What can you tell us about his game in the front court?
Yeah, 40% shooter from 3 last year, so the threes aren't really all that surprising, but they've really challenged him to expand the offensive game, find some opportunities to put the ball on the floor, maybe at a mid-range game, but also be a little bit more physical. That West Virginia game, it was really funny. He actually took an elbow, I think, to the face, ended up getting a flagrant foul on a West Virginia player, had to go to the locker room, get 2 stitches, came back out and had a double-double. And he told us after the game, after he took that elbow to the face, he was, quote, ready to kill, which I thought was awesome. But, Jeff Capel said that he loved seeing that fire from him. They want him to be more physical. They want him to be a little tougher. He's 7 foot, but a little thin, a little lanky, so I think they love seeing the aggressiveness from him and hope that he can keep that up moving forward.
The offensive numbers are eye-popping. They've scored over 88, and they've really been good and efficient from 2 and from 3. What about defense for this Pitt team? Is that expected to be a strength?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they've been a better defensive team this year than they have an offensive team. Jeff Capel challenged them, I think, after the first game and after their exhibition game against Point Park, a local, I believe, D3 school from here in Pittsburgh. But he just didn't think their on-ball defense was good enough. He thought the communication was poor, but they've really stepped it up over the past couple of games. So they've got a ton of length. Like I said, they're a little bit older too. And these guys who, a lot of new faces, they're adding, I think, 2 new starters, into the lineup and a bunch of other new faces off of the bench. So I'm not surprised that as they've gotten some more time on the floor together, that the communication and the on-ball defense, their ability to guard ball screens and work with the different type of coverages that they want to play with, that has gotten better over the first couple weeks of the season as well.
Forgive me. I know I've stayed in Pittsburgh when LSU played in Morgantown back in 2011, so I know that's not a long drive. I don't know how far it is from Pittsburgh to the Greenbrier, and I don't know how big the Greenbrier's facility is, but do you expect a sort of a home environment at a 1:30 or 2:30 that time tip-off tomorrow?
I would say not so much.
Okay.
It's about a 5.5-hour drive from Pittsburgh. I know my partner, Chris Carter, also from the Post-Gazette, is going to be covering that game. The basketball while I'm in Louisville this weekend to see our football team. But I don't think I would expect necessarily a home Pitt crowd. There might be a few people going down to spend the weekend, but it's a bit of a hike. And the other thing is the Steelers play tonight, so I'm not sure many people are going to be getting up early to make that trip down for a 2:30 start on Friday afternoon.
Understood. That's exactly why I asked. Stephen, we really appreciate some time. Safe travels. Enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll try to do it again soon.
Thanks so much. It was good talking to you.
Stephen Thompson of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette talking about these Pitt Panthers. I did a lot of research on this Pitt team. I obviously didn't research how far the Greenbrier was from Pittsburgh. I didn't realize 5 hours. That's quite a hike. I didn't think that Pittsburgh was 5 hours from anywhere in West Virginia because, like I mentioned, we stayed right across the street from PNC Park in 2011 and drove down the hour and change to Morgantown for that game that LSU won on the football field. But I did look at this Pitt team quite extensively, and I'm going to have a piece up later this afternoon previewing this game from my perspective. And this is a good Pitt team. They got 3, as we mentioned, really good guards. They've got some size. They have beaten the brakes off everybody they've played. I think this team is better than the Kansas State team LSU played. The environment will be different because that was a true road game, and this is, we just talked to Stephen, won't be quite that environment. But I think this is a great test for LSU, and if they can play this game really tight, maybe pull it out in the end, that would be a huge win and a feather in the cap for Matt McMahon. As I mentioned after the K-State game, and even on yesterday's show after they edged out a bad Charleston Southern team, your goal in November and December is to avoid the landmines and just pick a couple of these big ones off. Not all of them. You don't have to win them all. LSU does not have to go 2-0 this weekend. You don't need to go 0-2. 1-1, I'd probably sign up for that. But if you can go 2-0, that'd just be incredible. So I'm very excited to watch that game tomorrow. It'll tip off in about 24 hours from right now, and we'll kind of get another answer as to where this LSU basketball team is in year 3 of the Matt McMahon era. So we'll come back, look at a mock draft. Where's Will Campbell, and get you best win and worst loss in the college football ranks and the National Football League. That's all next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Airline at PQ. The buying experience at Genesis of Baton Rouge is phenomenal. I think a lot of times when you think about buying a car, you think about pulling up on the lot and the salesman smothers you at your car and they're trying to tell you about all these incredible deals. That's not how it's going to be at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They understand what the car buying experience should be like. You're going to feel like a guest as opposed to a customer when you're at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're happy to help you at whatever level you'd like that help. If you want to walk around the lot and just check things out, you can do that. If you'd like some help from one of their brand ambassadors, they'll be right there to assist you. But you don't even have to go to the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge. They'll come to you. If you go to genesisofbatonrouge.com, you do a little bit of research, you think that there's a vehicle there, because every car that's on the lot is online. If you see one, they'll drive it to you. Hey, here you go. You can test drive it with one of their brand ambassadors from the office, from the house. Don't have to go to the dealership. But I highly recommend that you do, because it's a gorgeous state-of-the-art facility there, Airline and PQ. But as I mentioned, start that journey of buying a vehicle at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Let's talk turkey. Bayou Ford can get you in a new 2024 Ford F-150 with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off America's favorite F-150 truck. All new Bayou automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
New mock draft just dropped, because there's never a bad time for a mock draft, right? Just churn them out, ESPN style. Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst, dropped one today, and I was just kind of perusing through it for Saints and LSU related content. Did have the Saints picking 11th here, and said they'd go with Jalen Walker, defensive end, outside linebacker from Georgia. Can play some off the ball, can play some on the edge. Feels like potentially a replacement for Cam Jordan-ish, Demario Davis-ish. Just kind of depends on how you want to use him. So he doesn't have great size, but his first step, speed, and power have helped him to 5.5 sacks. I like him as a stand-up rushing role in a 3-4 scheme if New Orleans' new regime goes that route. That's another thing about doing Saints mock drafts right now. You don't even know what kind of defense they want to play because they don't have any coaches lined up at this point. So it says Jalen Walker for the Saints at number 11. Look, anybody that Kirby Smart recruits, develops over 3 or 4 years, I'll take my chances with the Saints at number 11. So interesting there. As you move down the list, you can finally see Will Campbell, and they've got him going number 17 to the Seahawks. This is the first time I've actually seen this written about Will Campbell, however. Says that he has short-ish arms, and he's had some issues with outside speed rushers, and many scouts now believe he could be a guard in the pros. I have not seen anybody that has written that yet about Seattle, but they do write in this one that the Seahawks lost Damian Lewis in free agency. He could potentially fill in there. Of course, Damian Lewis on the Joe Moore winning offensive line back in 2019. So Will Campbell there at 17 to the Seattle Seahawks. Carson Beck right behind him at number 18 to the Rams. But I was perusing through this to see if anybody else for LSU might show up, whether it be Emory Jones, whether it be Harold Perkins. And as you continue to scroll through the first round, there is nobody else from LSU that is listed in this mock draft anymore. And that, to me, is telling. I don't think it's shocking, but it's telling about where this team is and why they haven't necessarily achieved to the degree that you would like. There are multiple Texas A&M defensive linemen, Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton, on this list. There are multiple Ole Miss defensive linemen on this list. You're talking about teams that have more talent than you that you're playing week in and week out. And I think that's evident when you watch the games. I think it's evident when you just understand what you're looking at when you watch LSU. And I think it makes sense when you read these mock drafts. So curious how that was going to shake out, and we'll do some more mock drafts later on down the road, but that was the one that dropped today. It's time for best win, worst loss. Best win in college football. This didn't take long. I didn't even research it because it's very rare that I can come on here and talk about a best win in college football, and it would be the greatest win in the history of the program. And if Indiana wins on Saturday, that's the best win in the history of the program. They go to Columbus, remain unbeaten, 11-0 against Ohio State. That's the best win in Indiana football history. So that makes it the best win on the board this week in college football. Worst loss, I will stay in the Big Ten. This may be a reputation play here, maybe a little bit, but I think it holds true. If Penn State loses this game to Minnesota on the road, that's probably the worst loss. I can make the case for Colorado against Kansas. There are other cases to be made. A&M dropping out of the playoff by losing to Auburn. Like, there are other ones out there, but Penn State has had a tendency to do this.
Miami, again, if they can, they're playing Wake Forest.
That would qualify as well, but I'm going to go with Penn State against Minnesota here because really all they told you, Penn State, is you don't have to beat anybody that's super good. Just don't lose to the crappy teams and you're in the playoffs. And that's what you've got on your plate coming up this weekend. So best win in the NFL, I kind of struggled with this one. There's a lot of good teams against bad teams this week. We'll probably get to that tomorrow more so than anything, but a lot of games that are a little bit mismatches. So best win was tougher. I think the 49ers, even though they're 5-5, going to Lambeau and getting a win over a good Packers team probably would suffice as the best win on the board. They've got Christian McCaffrey back. That should get Deebo Samuel a little bit of a rhythm. I hope so because he's on my fantasy team and he hasn't done squat. But the 49ers have struggled because of injuries and whatnot. If they go to Lambeau and win, I think that would be pretty impressive. Worst loss, this is pretty commonplace. But because of last week and because of the teams nipping on their heels, the Chiefs losing at the Panthers would be the worst loss. The Chiefs could probably have afforded a loss to the Panthers if they would have gone to Buffalo and won because they would have knocked Buffalo down a rung. They would have stayed undefeated, and they would have had a lot of breathing room over the last 6 weeks of the season. Now that's tightened because we know that Buffalo continues to play really well. The Chargers have a good record. The Ravens are very good. If they want the road to go through Arrowhead, you got to take care of your business, and this is one you've got to take care of your business on. So worst loss would be the Chiefs at the Panthers.
The Chiefs are 10.5-point favorites on the road.
That doesn't seem like enough.
On the road, if they're at home, they'd be 13 or 14. So,
yeah,
it makes sense, I guess.
It does, but, what does that feel like? The Chiefs' offense hasn't been that great, quite frankly. Their defense is better than their offense. The defense wasn't great against Josh Allen, but nobody's playing good defense against Josh Allen.
The Panthers, 2 wins in a row, Hunt. Beat the Saints, beat the Giants.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Super good. Great job by them. That franchise is really going places. Like the first pick in the draft, probably. So best win in the college football, Indiana over Ohio State. Worst loss in college football, Penn State at Minnesota. Let's go row the boat. Best win in the NFL, 49ers going to Lambeau Field and winning over the Packers, and the worst loss, Chiefs at the Panthers. If you missed any of the first hour, it was fast moving. We opened things up. My thoughts, can the Saints make the playoffs? In summation, no, I don't think they can. That's probably not breaking news to you, but I wanted to go through the exercise, and now we've done it. If you're curious of how I arrived at that conclusion, and not just the fact that they lost 7 games in a row during the season, you can check it out on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Andrew Allegretto, the voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores, had a lot of interesting things to say about Vanderbilt and what they've done this year, some of their strengths on offense, what they're trying to do, who some of their playmakers are, and then the defense and how they've been able to kind of hold at their ground, even though it's not a team that's star-studded and going to throw a bunch of guys in the first and second round of the draft. So if you want to hear about the scouting report of Vanderbilt, you can check that out on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Stephen Thompson, I thought was great, although he was probably walking around downtown with the wind blowing a little bit, but I thought he was good talking about Pittsburgh, who LSU will play in 23 hours and 30 minutes over at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. So you can catch that if you're looking for your LSU hoops fix. Then a little mock draft talk and best win, worst loss to close it all out. Wherever you missed it, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your podcast. In the second hour, Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers at 2:15. We'll talk some hoops and, of course, LSU and Vanderbilt football. Luke Johnson talking Saints at 2:30. When we come back on the other side of Sports Center, I want to get into LSU's Red Zone woes. I went into some of the numbers. We have some thoughts from some of the players, so we'll do that after we step aside for Sports Center. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's Markets.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBear's Baton Rouge, got to make it your game day headquarters this season. They've got the biggest screens around, and now you can bet and dine at ESPN Bet in person. Their pizzas are awesome. I like them a lot. The beer towers they got on Thursdays, it happens to be Thursday, $11. There's like 9 beers in it. It's a fantastic place to go get some food, get some cold to drink, watch awesome sports. You can gamble. There's blackjack right behind you. The seating arrangements are great for groups or individuals. I've spent a few Thursdays there at ESPN Bet, and you should too at LeBear's in Baton Rouge. And as always, I invite you to sign up today for the Cover 5 SEC contest. You're not going to be able to win the season-long contest on November the 21st, but you can win weekly prizes, and you can compete against me and dozens of our listeners. The code is LABRSEC24. Again, that's LABRSEC24 on the Cover 5 app. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
Join us at Pro Dreams in Mandeville for our special event, A Day of Champions. Meet LSU National Championship winning head coaches Jay Johnson, Skip Bertman, and Paul Maneri. Don't miss your chance to purchase authentic sports memorabilia, autographed by the champions themselves. It's the perfect opportunity to celebrate LSU baseball and take home a piece of history. Visit pro-dreams.com to get your tickets. See you there.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink are a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. NFL Week 12 kicks off tonight in Cleveland with the 2-8 Browns hosting the 8-2 Steelers. Pittsburgh has the third best record in the AFC, but ESPN's Dan Orlovsky thinks they might not be a top 3 team, largely because of their red zone offense.
My job is to figure out the whys or things that won't happen. The Steelers are a very good football team. If they don't get to the AFC title game, or what might not make them a legit Super Bowl contenders, you are not going to beat Lamar. You're not going to beat Josh Allen. You're not going to beat Patrick Mahomes kicking field goals.
Dan Orlovsky on First Take. Colorado wideout and cornerback Travis Hunter will enter the NFL draft as expected. Hunter is the favorite right now to win the Heisman Trophy, and ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. rates him the #1 prospect for the 2025 draft. Luka Doncic of the Mavericks will be out at least a week with a strained right wrist. He'll miss at least the next 4 games. He's averaging 28 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists this season.
Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Working towards the weekend. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Can start to feel it around here. It's going to be an awesome weather weekend here in South Louisiana, whether you're going to do some hunting, watching some football, tailgating, playing some golf, whatever the case may be. Spend some time outside this weekend. It's going to be a delight. Hopefully it's a delight for LSU on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. They're overdue for a little delight. It's been a minute. They haven't won a game since they beat Arkansas, which seems like just decades ago. And part of the reason that LSU is not winning games is because they're not scoring enough points. That sounds very obvious, and it is very obvious. The question is, why are they not scoring a lot of points? And the answer to that is not because the offense can't move the ball. LSU does move the ball. We talked ad nauseum about the numbers that they put up against Florida. I mean, this is ridiculous. LSU had 10 drives in that game. 6 of those 10 drives went 10 or more plays. 6 of them. More than half your drives went 10 plays. And do you know how many times you got into the red zone in that game? 1. You got into the red zone. And then you got an offensive pass interference on a touchdown pass to C.J. Daniels. And you had to kick a field goal from 45 yards. So it's a crazy thing to try to analyze that LSU in that game could move the ball so efficiently, because to have 10 plays, you got to get some first downs. You got to have some penalties on the other team. You've got to move the ball, but you never get into the red zone. That's wild. You go back a game prior against Alabama, and you had 3 red zone trips. Wasn't like you were great on offense in that game, quite the contrary, but you had 3 red zone trips and you got 10 points. You had Caden Durham bust one down there inside the 5-yard line, 1st and goal, can't push it in. Can't run the ball. Can't get anybody open. Field goal. Then you have 2 more red zone trips. And one time, you get a touchdown. But that was in garbage time. You also have a situation where in the second quarter, you have a 2nd and 10 from the 21-yard line. You're right on the doorstep of the red zone, and you call a creative play in the run game, and it works, and you run 11 yards down to the 10, and Will Campbell's got a holding call that backs it up, and you got 2nd and 20, and you kick a field goal. And then you're down 21-6, and you get down in the red zone, and you got a chance to score a touchdown and cut it to one score, and Nussmeier throws a pick. So you've got lack of execution down there inside the 5 after the Durham run. You got turnovers. You got penalties. You got inability to finish drives. All these things happening for LSU. And then you consider at Texas A&M, you can't say the offense was inept that night. They had 429 yards of total offense, and with 3 botched field goals, you scored 23 points. I mean, that's not an awful offensive effort to go for 429 yards, score 23 points, and leave 3 field goals out there. What if you just make 2 of the 3 field goals? You make 2 out of 3 field goals there. You scored 29 points on the road at A&M and 429 yards of offense. That's not a terrible day at the office. Over the course of those 3 games, LSU has had 34 drives. 34. They have gone 3 and out 4 times in 34 drives. Like, that's not bad. That's actually impressive. 3 out of 34 is 9%. So this sense that LSU is beyond broken offensively is not true. I've seen broken offenses. I've seen them in that stadium. I've seen teams that could not move the ball, that could not complete a pass. This team has problems, and it would probably be easier if it was one issue. But sometimes they can't run the ball, and sometimes they turn the ball over. And now in the Florida game, they're giving up sacks. And sometimes you miss field goals. And sometimes you get a penalty. This sounds so cliche, and as a sports writer who is sitting in these press conferences, I cringe every time there's a cliche. And trust me, it's a lot. But it's the little things. Will Campbell, you can't hold on the Juwan Johnson run. Can't do it. Kyron, I know this play is designed for a rub route, but you can't just plow over the defensive back and get an offensive pass interference that's easy for everyone in the entire stadium to call. Nuss, you got to take care of it in the red zone. Got to take care of it. Joe Sloan, got to come up with something to get the ball in the end zone once you get down inside the 5, 1st and goal on the first drive of the game when you're down 7-0 against Bama. If it was just they can't run the ball, well, you could work off of that. You could spread the field, get a little creative, jet sweeps, trust your passing game. Just don't beat your head against a wall. If it was just that you got 2 offensive linemen on the right side of the line that hold, well, go left. But there's not one issue with this offense. It's myriad things that continue to crop up time and time again. I mean, against Florida, LSU had 382 total yards, 160 on the ground by the backs, and 262 passing. You take out the massive sack adjustment on 7 of those, you're over 400 yards. But you only scored 1 touchdown. I'm disappointed by LSU's offense the last 3 games. Disappointed for sure. Do I think it's some symptom of a broken program? I don't. They move the ball better than that. They've shown they can score points in crunch time against Ole Miss. They've shown they could go on the road to South Carolina in a hostile environment, down 17-0, and go score almost 40 points against a good defense. They showed in the first half against A&M they could move the ball. They just missed 2 field goals. It's an inconsistent unit. It's a unit that has to adjust the next 2 weeks to what teams are doing to them. And it's disappointing they haven't adjusted to this point. They're not broken. The program's not toast. The entirety of LSU's offensive punch did not walk out on that NFL draft stage with Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas and then head to South Bend with Mike Denbrock. That's just not the case. They've been not good enough. They're not awful. And you can suggest that sunshine pumping, that's failure to look at reality, and I would just flatly disagree. I feel like I have talked about LSU in pretty open terms over the last 3 weeks. I've been wrong about the predictions for the games. But LSU just needs to play better than they have. And I go back to this. I talked about it yesterday. I'll probably bring it up again on tomorrow's show. There's no pressure on them anymore. It's just gone. It doesn't exist. They can suggest they've got to finish this thing the right way, and that 8-4 is much better than 6-6, like Will Campbell said on Tuesday. And they can trot out all that they want, and they can believe that if they want. But the fact of the matter is that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, nobody's going to know if you went 7-5 or 8-4. It's all the same. You didn't choke if you lost to Vanderbilt. They've just got to play better. Keep doing some of this stuff. Keep possessing the ball. Keep converting third downs. Keep trying to run it. Get Caden Durham going. Get into the red zone. When you do, somebody's got to make a play. Somebody's got to do something. They know that. And they're going to play hard tomorrow, Saturday, try to make that happen. I cannot promise that it will. Vanderbilt's tough and scrappy and has a good coach, and they're coming off a bye. And they're going to try to do the same thing everybody else has done. Squeeze up there, make LSU throw it short, tackle them on the ground. Maybe you give up a few first downs, but as long as you don't get them in the red zone, as long as you don't give up touchdowns, you're fine. They'll know. They'll have a plan. It's LSU's job to counteract that and get something done. We'll see. Garrett Nussmeier, Joe Sloan and company can do it coming up Saturday night in Death Valley. When we come back, Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, talking some football as well as some hoops. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com. No football season for the youngsters is winding down. If you had a high school player or a youth player that suffered an injury and is trying to rehab it, if you're not really happy with the progress, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports is happy to help you. I tell you all the time that Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports sees professional athletes all the time. But you don't have to be a professional athlete to go there. Far from it. 9-year-old gymnast, 14-year-old football player, 19-year-old that hurts his arm playing baseball. All those welcome at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Anybody that's an active person that's dealing with pain or trying to rehab from a surgery, anybody can go to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Their job is to get you back to being your active self. They're on Starring near Highland Road behind Sammy's Grill. You can't miss them. Robbie Bolton's been at this for 2 decades. You can be next. Getting that hands-on physical therapy and rehabilitation from the folks at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Love Luke Johnson talking Saints here in 15 minutes. Who Dat's on a bye week. They'll get ready for the Rams coming up next week. This week for LSU, it's the Vanderbilt Commodores inside Tiger Stadium, and a big weekend for the basketball Tigers as well. Chris Blair is the voice of the Tigers, joins us on Thursdays, does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, Hunt. Hope you're well.
Doing quite well. Let's go back to the Swamp, unfortunately. What was the energy like in that building? I was skeptical of that all week entering it, and on television, it looked like it was quite the scene, even though the team hadn't been playing very well.
No, well, I'll have to make my amends. I told you last week on the show I didn't expect much, and I was surprised. I mean, I guess part of it is that Florida-LSU battle, at least over the last 10, 15 years, has certainly increased. I thought was one of the best cross-division rivalry games in the league, and so maybe that was it. It was pretty close to what you expect to be a loud, raucous atmosphere. And frankly, as I told you last week, I hadn't really experienced that at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium since the 2018 game. And some of that could be the fact that LSU won 5 straight, but based on what their team had done up to that point last week, I didn't expect much, but as the game got deeper, and then the third quarter and fourth quarter, by the time Tom Petty got around to singing, the place was pretty rocking.
I know you, Jacob, myself do the exact same thing. Right when it goes final, you start crunching the box score, looking for players of the game and kind of talking points for post game. And I kept scrolling through, what am I looking at here? I mean, what was your reaction to seeing how slanted things seem to be to LSU, and they still find a way to lose by 11. That was a box score that I don't know that I've seen much like.
Yeah, I've called games for a few years now, and I have been told, especially early on in my career, when I picked a particular stat or this stat or a couple of stats, coaches, and they were correct at the time, would say, that really doesn't tell the story of the game. I've never seen one like the stat sheet that was finished last Saturday. I mean, basically everything LSU won except the scoreboard. Time of possession, total number of plays, first downs, third down efficiency. I mean, there were a lot of stats that if you didn't see the score, you just could not believe LSU lost that game. But, at the end of the day, I know Jacob and I touched on it. You guys touched on it after the game. If you score 3 touchdowns in 10 quarters of play, that's how you win games. You got to find the end zone. And, had to settle for field goals, able to move the ball for the most part up and down the field outside the 20s. But, it's been a problem that I think we were concerned about early against, other teams where we felt like the score could be a bigger deficit for the opponent had you punched it in, but you still won. So it didn't really stand out. But over the last 2.5 games. I mean, certainly struggles in the red zone starting to happen more and more often, and they got to find a way to fix that. And that doesn't matter whether you're playing Nichols, South Alabama, or Alabama. When you get in the red zone, you have to be able to operate and convert, and we've seen that number start to dwindle and dwindle.
I went back and listened to some of Brian Kelly's stuff from last week previous to Florida, and he talked about the red zone and said the key to the red zone is you got to run the ball. And what's interesting is that LSU did run the ball between the 20s last week. Caden Durham got going. Josh Williams had some really good runs, and they didn't necessarily find the success they were looking for when they got into the plus side of the field. But is there anything that's encouraging about the fact that they did actually gain yardage on the ground consistently all night?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that leads us to believe that in 4th and 1, wherever you are in the field, or 3rd and short, wherever you are in the field, and certainly when you get in the red zone inside the 5, I mean, I think just watching the way LSU ran the ball, that you think, okay, at that point, you ought to be able to line up and in 3 plays, and if you have to, 4 plays, be able to get 3 or 4 yards and bust into the end zone. So, again, we didn't see that, but what you saw throughout the game would tell you can do that. And so I guess for that reason, at this point, you have to be optimistic that hopefully that is something that will turn around. But early in that game, the 4th and short on the opening possession, it looked like they were going to try to let Garrett just fall forward and get that first down, and then the timeout comes because I guess there were a lot of checks. There was a little uncertainty. Then they come out and they run the jet sweep or the end around on the shovel pass, which has been extremely successful with Thomas. And looking back at the play, and I've watched that play hunt probably 10 times since we got back from Gainesville. And at first it was, you let Trey'Dez Green, a freshman tight end, kind of be one of the lead blockers on that play. But when you go back and look at it, I think Trey'Dez did a pretty good job. I think Xavion, as good as he's been all year, I think he outran where the seam was. He went beyond the block. I think if he cuts back, not only does he get the first down, I think he get, a lot more with his speed. And I think it goes back to what Coach Kelly has said really all season long, which is it's not necessarily the running back's fault. It's not necessarily always the offensive line fault, and not always the outside blocker's fault. But it seems to be when they need a play like that, one of those systems breaks down. And, again, that's why until we see it consistently, again, optimistically, yeah, I think we saw some good things from the running game. Does that translate into being able to do what you need to do starting this week and the rest of the season? I mean, until it happens, it hasn't happened yet.
I'm curious to watch this LSU defense chase Diego Pavia around. We've seen some smaller improvising quarterbacks over the years. Johnny Manziel, Bo Nix kind of come to mind there, and Pavia's been pretty sensational all year. What have you seen in his game?
Yeah, I mean, he's an alpha competitor, that's for sure, on and off the field. And, you can't dispute the numbers. He's got 20 touchdowns, 15 through the air, 5 rushing, close to 1,900 yards passing, almost 700 yards rushing. I mean, he's a prototypical dual-threat quarterback, and the numbers bear it out. I thought Florida, I imagine it'll be interesting to see what Vanderbilt does, especially wanting to run the ball the way they like to do it, because they like to keep the clock moving and they like to keep the ball away from you. Florida, I thought, did a pretty good job of kind of neutralizing Whit Weeks against the run. I think they knew that he's a guy that can disrupt things at the mesh point. He's a guy who can headhunt and get good angles. And he just really wasn't involved in a lot of plays. And when you go back and watch the film, you'll see that they had guys who were dedicated to taking him out of the play. And it was either the way they motioned guys or where they led with the blockers. And, again, I think that's a big part of LSU's success defensively. Now, listening to some of the defensive guys this week in the media session, they all really still feel very confident in their ability to stop the run. And, I think I heard Paris Shan talk about we got to stop the run first. They're very dangerous in the run game. And they also are very good at getting the ball out quickly. So the key, you can kind of read between the lines there, is, they're going to need some help on the back end of this defense and make Pavia have to take a little time, keep him in the pocket, even if he extends the pocket, make that play go on. It's almost as if LSU's defense can benefit if the play is extended and it's going to be a pass. So I think that's the challenge they will have, because he gets rid of the ball quickly. It's not easy to get to him. But LSU seems confident that they're going to be able to do that.
Last time we talked to you, you were up there in the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas. It was a pretty nice day at the office for Coach McMahon and the Tigers there. What did you see in that one specifically?
Well, I just think they played an all-around great game. It's one of the better games I've seen for 40 minutes, top to bottom, when it comes to offense, sharing the basketball, the 19 assists by the Tigers, just dominating on the glass in a big way. Keeping Kansas State to one shot, and then just on the ball defense, because in their own building, the Wildcats did not shoot the ball very well. So, I mean, it was, to me, just the ultimate game. And, you know, you'd love to get that every time out. And there are a few teams in the country that come to mind that for the most part do that. But it's one of those things, again, where you have seen what they can do. Now it's a matter of going out and replicating that. And they'll be challenged this weekend because that's a really good tournament field. There were 8 teams in this Greenbrier tip-off. I believe the Mountain Group or the River Group, there's 4 in each. But they played last weekend, which included LSU's last opponent in Charleston Southern. But this weekend, I mean, you've got Pittsburgh coming up tomorrow, which is a talented team out of the ACC. And then coming up on Sunday, you take on either Central Florida, who's got a solid win over Texas A&M, or a ranked team in Wisconsin. So this is, you know, it's back-to-back weeks early in the season where Coach McMahon and the Tigers, who wanted to improve their record in non-conference, especially in the month of November compared to last year, you know, not backing down. They're taking on good competition, which, again, knowing what they're going to face come January when SEC play starts, I think that's the best route. I don't see a lot of benefit in playing teams that you're going to overmatch night in and night out. I just don't think that prepares you for as talented as the SEC is. So it'll be interesting to watch the guys in Greenbrier, West Virginia tomorrow and again on Sunday.
It's interesting because last year they did enough in SEC play to make the NCAA tournament, but because of the way they played in November and December, they didn't give themselves a good enough opportunity. They beat Mississippi State in terms of conference standing. State got in without even going to Dayton, and LSU was left in the NIT. So you got to keep plugging along in November and December. They're important, and LSU gets a good test. What's the plan for the network, if you don't mind me asking, for Friday and Sunday?
Yeah, we'll have the coverage. A good friend of mine, J.D. Byers, been a play-by-play announcer for a lot of years. He flew with the team yesterday to Louisville, West Virginia, their home of the Greenbrier Resort. And he and John Brady will have the call tomorrow, airtime at 1, tip-off 1:30 Central. And then they'll enjoy Saturday at the Greenbrier, take a tour of the former government bunkers there, and then get ready for Sunday, depending on who they play. I think either 2 o'clock or maybe 4:30, something like that. So we'll have all the coverage. Everything will be covered for men's basketball and football, and then, of course, the women in the Bahamas on Monday in a pretty good matchup as well against Washington.
Awesome. Is this Coach Brady's first time kind of getting out, enjoying himself in a tropical, in an awesome locale? Is that his first time doing that?
Well, if the trip and the text I got from him late last night and tomorrow in the indication, not a lot to do there in Lewisburg, West Virginia.
Okay.
And I believe he let me know that everything closes down at the resort at 10 p.m., which is a big no-no for typically he and I on the road.
That's no good for Coach Brady. He'll figure something out. I have full confidence in him. And Coach's show tonight from TJ Ribs with Brian Kelly. Chris Blair's there for all of it. We appreciate a little bit of time. We'll see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday, hon. Thanks.
Chris Blair, he's the voice of the Tigers tonight, 7 o'clock, TJ Ribs, Brian Kelly show. If you're looking to get out of the house, enjoy some nice weather, and go get some great food, TJ Ribs, good spot for you there, as Coach Kelly will be with Chris Blair at the Coach's show. All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, we'll talk some Saints. Luke Johnson.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with. I tell you about property and casualty every day, and I'll do that here in a second, but also group and employee benefits. You know how important those benefits are to the folks that work for you. And if you don't have great benefits, you may not be able to attract talent or keep it so that your business can keep chugging along. If you don't know exactly what the best operation is for getting your group employee benefits taken care of, call the Highland Insurance Group. They are happy to help you with all of it. It can be very confusing. I worked in insurance for a long time. My wife's in healthcare. Sometimes we have issues going over our benefits. That's the case with you. Let Jonathan Carver and his team come out and help you every step of the way. And certainly they can help you with your property and casualty, cyber insurance, crime insurance, EPL insurance, D&O, umbrellas, all that. If you're a business owner and don't necessarily have a great handle on what all of that does for you and your business, let the Highland Insurance Group handle it for you. It's not a magic bullet. If you're going to call them and say, hey, I'd love you to cut 12% off my current rate, that's not really the call to make. They'll do that if they can, but that's not realistic in this marketplace. They want to make sure that you are covered, and they can help you that the Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group. HighlandIG.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Those New Orleans Saints on a bye this weekend, but we're still putting Luke Johnson to work. He covers the black and gold for The Advocate, joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
I'm great. I got all my bye week coverage done yesterday, so I've just been like sitting around reading a book, waiting for your call today. I think this is a life.
What a day! What a Thursday for you. We're thrilled you made a little bit of time for us in your busy day. They got it done again on Sunday. We didn't know if it was going to be a 1 week thing with the old interim bump, but they played a pretty good game. Overcame a couple of Taysom turnovers because he did just about everything else. What was your biggest takeaway from the win over Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just that. It was really nice to see like the full unlocked version of Taysom Hill that I think a lot of us were expecting to see much earlier in the season. Obviously, the injuries played a part in that. I think they were kind of trying to hide him a little bit in those first 2 games because they were winning by such big margins. They didn't really need to like show off what they could do with him. But like this is the sort of stuff that we saw like all throughout training camp and the like mini camps and all that stuff throughout the whole offseason. I was just really expecting like a huge year for Taysom Hill, and it injuries and whatever else just didn't materialize. But man, it was so much fun just like watching what he can do when he's given a bunch of opportunities to touch the ball. And who knows if that's going to be the case moving forward. I mean, the injuries make that really tough, because he's 34. He's obviously dealt with a couple different things this year, bruised lung, broken ribs. But like, if that could like consistently be something they do, where they're just getting the ball in his hands a lot. What he had, like 15 touches and 2 pass attempts in that game. I just think that like he can consistently be a very dangerous weapon for you. So it was really fun to watch that actually unfold.
I want to ask you about Trevor Penning, because we haven't talked about him really a lot since training camp. And Pro Football Focus says he's playing great, and I think that's the general consensus. What have you noticed from him? What's the feeling around his play now that they finally settled him in at right tackle?
Yeah, it's really funny you asked me about that. That was the last story I wrote. It's going to be published early next week. He's been playing really well. I think we all kind of expected he would be a suitable run blocker, and maybe the pass protection was something he needed to work on. I think that's kind of played out a little bit this year. But really, when we were going into this year, I think anybody you talk to is just like, man, if he could just be playable, it'd be a win. Because he really wasn't his first 2 years for various reasons, but he wasn't that guy. And lately, he's been a dominant player in the run game. I don't know if your listeners follow this guy named Brandon Thorne, but he's an analyst who just like kind of specifically zeroes in on offensive line play across the NFL. And he called him the NFL's ultimate blunt force object the other day, just because he is a mean, physically imposing run blocker. And you saw it like that Falcons game was easily the best game of his season 2 weeks ago. And you saw it like the very first run snap. Like handoff, he makes his way into the second level, finds a linebacker, and he literally drives him 10 yards downfield and into the dirt. Like that's the sort of plays that we are seeing from him as a run blocker. And then when you add in the fact that he's just getting like a little bit better every week as a pass protector, I think he's only given up 3 sacks this season. The penalties are still an issue. I think he's number 2 in the NFL in holding penalties with 5, but he's getting better. And that's a huge, huge win for the Saints. If you look at it right now, they're starting 5 in that game the other day, they're all under contract for a number of years. Fuaga's got 3 more years plus a rookie option on his contract. Penning's got another year plus a rookie option if the Saints want to exercise on his contract. McCoy's got, I think, 3 more years on his deal. Ruiz has 2 more years on his deal. Saldivari has 2 more years on his deal. And 3 of those guys are on rookie deals. It's all relatively affordable. I think they're playing at a decent level with McCoy in the lineup. So it's a huge positive for the Saints that he's really kind of turned the corner.
That's interesting, because that was like the biggest question mark on the team and probably the reason most people thought they wouldn't be very good. And now you're starting to talk about it as they move towards the future as a potential strength. Do you feel that it could be?
I think it could be. I think they still need some. I'm not sold on Saldivari yet. He hasn't played a lot of ball. He wasn't able to beat out Lucas Patrick, who's kind of like a journeyman offensive lineman. Once Patrick is healthy, he might go back in the starting 5. I still think they could probably use a day 2 pick on an interior player and really beef that up. But I do think that's when you're looking at what's been like the most consistently good part about their offense this year. It's been their tackle play. Weirdly enough, it was like the huge question mark going into the year because those guys have stayed healthy and they've really held up well. I mean, look, in games when Derek Carr has been in the lineup, I don't think he's been sacked more than twice in any game. And that is like not something we saw coming. So yeah, I definitely think there's good building blocks there, and guys who are either on affordable veteran deals or rare deals, which is absolutely what this team needs.
Do you feel the same way about the corners that they've now got with Lattimore gone, and then you feel like Adebo's time may be up? Do you feel the same way that they've got what they need at the outside corners?
I don't know, man. That one's trickier. Like there are days when I feel like Alontae Taylor is ready to just be a star in the NFL, and there are days when he gets picked on mercilessly. He's just been a little bit too inconsistent for me, and I think he's better as an outside corner than he is as a slot corner. But most of his best plays this year have come from the slot. He's been used on blitzes, and his instincts can really shine there. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think, it's still way too early to tell what he is. I do think that they do a nice job as an organization of finding guys who fit what they want to do at corner. But I probably feel less good about it now than I did 6 or 7 weeks ago. And it's not even really counting the Lattimore thing. I didn't really include Lattimore as part of the team's future just because they kind of telegraphed that they were willing to deal him. The Adebo thing is interesting. I think he's been a pretty good player minus the one glaring flaw, right? The penalties. Yep. Like that's a big problem. But really, I thought for him he was going to price himself out of New Orleans. But after the penalties, after he broke his leg, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes back and on like a shorter term kind of prove it type deal and try to reset his free agency market because he's still a really young player. We'll see. I don't know. He's one that's intriguing to me though, because I think when he's been really good, he's been really, really good.
Do you think Darren Rizzi and Clint Kubiak and Joe Woods can coach their way into keeping those jobs?
Yes, with some qualifiers. Rizzi, look, if the Saints decide to blow it up, which I think is definitely a realistic possibility, and get out of some of these contracts and reset the salary cap, it's going to be hard to get like the higher end coaches to the roster, or to the organization, because they're going to have a tough sell on that. And I think one of the qualities that Rizzi's shown in 2 weeks, and granted he's got 6 more weeks to go. This could all go very poorly from here on. But he understands how to get the pulse of a roster and how to get young guys to maybe play above the level they were playing at before. And he's got guys having his back, and I think he's clearly a smart football coach. So if they decide they want to blow it up, and they're not going to get this, they're not going to get Ben Johnson, they're not going to get Joe Brady and whoever else the hot candidates are, and they're already kind of going down to the second or third tier candidates, then I don't see the harm in having a guy who's like a culture builder there to kind of steer the ship and see what he can do with it. It's probably going to be a difficult couple of years if they decide to go that route, and that they just trying to get back to the middle in the salary cap. I don't think Rizzi's a bad option for that. And then you look at the fact that Kubiak was a new hire this offseason. He came here on a 3-year contract. All of the assistants that he handpicked are here on 2-year contracts. Those guys I think have done a pretty decent job coaching the team this year, considering the circumstances with all the injuries. It's obviously up to the new coach, whoever that is. But if it's Rizzi, I'd have a hard time seeing them moving on from those guys. The defensive side, I think, is I have a harder time seeing that. I think that all those guys' deals are up after this year, and just the matter of fact is that they've really underperformed this year.
Yeah.
Even the last couple of games where the outcomes have been better. The defense closed down the game against Atlanta and only gave up 14 points against Cleveland, but they're still giving up way too many explosive plays and a lot of yards. I'd have a harder time seeing the defensive staff back next year.
Any chance we can get you to Tiger Stadium on Saturday? You're off this weekend.
So I'm not coming this Saturday. I don't want to see those gold jerseys in person.
Thank you for that.
But I am going to make my triumphant return to Tiger Stadium for the OU game, and I'm bringing my wife's cousin for his very first LSU experience. So hopefully it's not like the worst atmosphere of all time in Tiger Stadium because they're terrible this year. But I'm looking forward to that. I'll be watching Saturday's game from my couch. and maybe just listening to it. I don't want to see those jerseys.
Hide your eyes, but hopefully I'll see you next week. Thanks, man.
Sounds good, buddy. See you.
Luke Johnson, Saints beat reporter for The Advocate. Follow him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson. Always appreciate his time each and every Thursday. Come back and close things up. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. They're the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana, and they're right here in Baton Rouge. I told y'all earlier this week, we were driving, my wife goes, "Oh, that's that car I really like. It's a Genesis." And she had no idea that I even do this. I was like, yeah, they're really nice. They're really, really nice. And you should know it too. You don't see a ton of Genesis on the road because it's fairly new to our city here. They've only been at that location for a year and a half, but go check it out. It's a luxury vehicle. It's a luxury experience to be a Genesis driver. That means 3 years of complimentary maintenance, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. It's a luxury experience at a reasonable price over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every single car that's on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, and all of them, every single model, from the entry level to the highest end, come with the same safety features. Safety is a priority for Genesis. Go check them out. Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. That's Genesis of Baton Rouge.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Always a reminder to check out Rouse's if you're doing your Thanksgiving meal shopping this weekend. Kind of get everything prepped. I know a lot of cooking goes on before Thursday and just kind of heat a lot of things up on Thursday for your Thanksgiving lunch or dinner. Rouse is always a fantastic option to get everything that you need. You got the whole family coming in. Need your wine and spirits to get through the holidays. They got you covered at Rouse's. Our location is Burbank and Lee. But if you're in South Louisiana, all the way to Gulf Shores, Alabama, there's a Rouse's near you. And you can do your grocery shopping virtually. Just download the Rouse's app, do your shopping right there, have your personal shopper go in and pick it all up, and you just drive right up to the front, right by the entrance. They'll walk it right out to you. You're on your way. Could not be any easier. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, Beck, let's play Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. Hubie Brown will retire at the end of this NBA season. It's hard to believe that he has still been calling games for the last, even honestly, 10 years, but he is 91.
Yeah.
He has been calling games since 1986 when he was still a coach of the Knicks, which seems like a little bit of maybe you probably should need all your time to coach the Knicks and not be able to call games.
I believe when he was doing that, it was the playoffs and the Knicks were not in the
Okay,
playoffs.
that's fair.
That's what I believe it said.
All right, well, I would hope so. But anyways, retiring at 91, take it or leave it.
Gonna leave that.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it too.
I don't plan on working until 91. I'm probably not going to be here at 91, quite frankly. But
Wow,
if I am, I will not be employed.
Why do you think you're not going to be here at 91? You're a very healthy man, Hunt. You live an active lifestyle.
I'm pretty active, but
I mean, I'm being
91
sarcastic,
is against
but
the odds.
It is.
I run every morning. That's pretty good.
That is actually really good. No, it is. The Cokes probably don't help you very much, but
I'm just not going to stop drinking a Coke Zero. It's
yeah,
delicious.
that's okay.
Friday, we're going to
Look,
sit down. We're going to do in 22 hours. I will sit down and do this show. I will have Coke
I'm
Zero.
going to be honest.
It's delicious.
I'm going to be honest with you, Hunt. I don't know what really matters anymore. My grandmother has been smoking cigarettes since she was 18, and she's like 85, and she's not healthy, but she's still living. So I don't really know what.
She's still working?
No, she's not still working anymore. And also on Hubie Brown, not really a fan of him calling games, especially in the last 10 years at least. He showed his age. I'll just put it that way.
Look, I mean, where was I going with that? There was something there. Al Michaels. He's getting up there in age.
He is.
He doesn't eat vegetables ever. He's never had a vegetable.
You just eat steak.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. I could live on that.
You can definitely. I'm sure you could.
But I can do it.
All right, next one here. Coach Prime made a big splash in the recruiting world today. Got a commitment from the number 2 quarterback, of course, Bryce Underwood, number 1. In the 2025 class, Julian Lewis put his name on the Buffalo's I don't know what I'm saying.
List.
Yes, he committed to Colorado. The Buffaloes will win 8+ games again next year. Take it or leave it.
Their schedule's easy. I'll take it. They don't play a lot of good teams. But that does fly in the face of what I've said. That, like, a lot of Coach Prime's success is because his kid plays quarterback and could be the first pick in the draft, and then he might have the Heisman Trophy winner, who he's got as well, and those guys are going to be gone, and I just have a hard time believing that Colorado is going to be as good when those guys move on. Now, I still don't think tossing the number 2 quarterback in the country right into the fire, like I wouldn't love it if LSU tossed Bryce Underwood right into the fire, but that's good.
It is.
He can continue to do that. They're more of a portal school, but if you can get a high schooler, that helps you more. So there you go. I mean, Travis Hunter and Shador were high school kids that he signed. So there you go.
All right, next one here. The Swamp will have a sold-out crowd for the Ole Miss game this weekend. The Gators have a chance. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. Florida gives up a ton of explosive plays. They didn't last weekend, but they have all year. They're not good. They weren't good in September. They weren't good in October. They weren't good last week. They beat a team that's kind of fallen apart, and I think that they'll get handled pretty easily on Saturday by Ole Miss. That's probably a hint at my pick.
Well, I guess so. I didn't mean to do that, but we got you there.
I don't know what the it's like 10.
I think it's 10 or 11. Let me see.
I reserve the right to change my mind.
Of
Full
course.
disclosure, I'll just put this out there because it's all out there on the internet anyway. I have that Cover 5 thing that I do for Penn Gaming, and I pick my picks every week and compete against all the listeners. Those picks I usually log in on Tuesday, and then I do picks on Friday, and they're never the same. So I reserve the right to just kind of change wishy-washy whatever I'm feeling at the current moment. And that just is what it is.
Ole Miss are 11-point choice in Ben Hill Griffin on Saturday. Just for those.
Probably going to take Ole Miss.
I think I'm a bit torn on that one actually. I think I'll give Florida a chance. But last one here. They saved lunch for us. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that.
Yeah, I'm leaving it.
For those that have been on the listening for 2 hours, they had a Guarantee Media potluck
Yeah.
Thanksgiving lunch, and they served it at 1 p.m. Right when the three of us sat down.
We
to
never
do
get
this 2-hour
anything
show.
lunch related.
No.
It just never
When
happens.
I was in sales, they always had sales lunches, like birthday lunches, going away lunches, all kind of stuff. I never got to go to any of them because they just said, you guys suck. Go do the radio show, and we're going to eat delicious food without you. And that's what happened here at Guaranteed today.
It is.
So I'm not bitter about it, but I don't believe there's any food left.
I'm gonna go check. I'll report back, but I'm not expecting anything really.
I'm not either. I don't anticipate that there will be anything remaining. These hyenas probably ate it all around here, if I had to guess. Seen food go very, very quickly. Who brought?
It always goes.
Oh, somebody. Oh, we had a previous sponsor that brought food in, and they were like 10 sandwiches. I came back like 6 minutes
they were
later.
gone.
They were all gone.
Yeah.
Just poof. Absolutely like fire. Unbelievable. All right, that's it for a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Rouse's. Open things up, talking about whether or not the Saints could actually make the playoffs. Is that a possibility? You want my answer? Go to Hunt on Saints on YouTube and check it out. Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores, was here to preview the doors. You can find that at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. Stephen Thompson works for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, LSU and Pittsburgh from the Greenbrier in West Virginia. That is tomorrow at 1:30. He previewed that Pittsburgh Panthers team. I'll write a preview up right when I get to my desk for LouisianaSports.net, so check that out this evening. A 2025 NFL mock draft. Will Campbell. You can check that out on demand. LSU's struggles in the red zone have been real. I broke it down by the numbers. Chris Blair on the Tigers and Luke Johnson on the Saints. If you missed today, wherever you find your podcast, you can find us. Search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, review. We always appreciate your feedback and helping us get our content in front of as many people as possible. We've done all we can do here on this Thursday. We're going to hand it off to Matt Moscona, who's going to drive you home on After Further Review. Have a great and safe Thursday. We're back tomorrow for a Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com is the website. Nothing is more important than your safety and security, your house, your family. And for us at the Palmer House, we trusted Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio Video Security Solutions to help us with that. It was a seamless process. We called Mitchell. He came over that afternoon. We told him what our budget was. We told him what we were looking for. 2 days later, he showed up at the house with the equipment, with the cameras, with the burglar alarm. All of that was installed within a day, and we've now got that set up at our house 24/7. We can pick up the app. We can disarm the burglar alarm. We can arm the burglar alarm remotely. We can look at the pictures and the video of the front door and the back door, pause it and rewind. We don't pay any storage fees at all. It's been fantastic. If there's any issue, the customer service is great as well. Give Mitchell Fisher a call at 225-439-7920 or check him out online. It's Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined